Disclaimer. This podcast is AI-powered and all data and sources are from podwires.com. They have been fact-checked and vetted by a human editor.
From the Podwires newsroom at podwires.com.
Buckle up, deep divers, because today we are diving headfirst into the world of podcasts.
Yeah.
We're talking headlines, trends, and maybe even some industry secrets.
Ooh.
Or at least the kind of so what insights that make you sound crazy informed at your next networking event.
And this isn't just for the podcast creators out there.
Right.
Though we see you and we appreciate you.
Yeah.
This deep dive is for anyone who listens, advertises, or is just plain curious about this constantly evolving industry.
It is constantly evolving.
It is.
And speaking of evolving, our first stop today takes us straight to the heart of it.
Okay.
Sounds profitable.
Drop some surprising research.
Okay.
The podcast landscape. And it seems like listeners are getting tired.
Tired.
Impossible.
It does seem counterintuitive, right? Like
Yeah.
with more amazing content than ever, you'd think podcasting would be just like,
Booming.
yeah.
Booming. More than ever.
Yeah, more than ever. But this report raises a fascinating point about listener behavior.
Think about it like when a TV show disappoints,
Yeah,
you probably just find a new one,
totally.
right? But with podcasts, sounds profitable,
Yeah.
found that listeners are more likely to just
Check out its
furiously. So it's like swearing off pizza forever because you had one bad slice.
That's a painfully accurate analogy.
It is.
And the numbers are, they're pretty startling.
Okay.
43%
Wow.
of what they call lapsed listeners.
Lapsed listeners.
Meaning folks who haven't listened to a podcast in the past month
Oh, wow.
aren't sure if or when they'll ever come back.
Wow.
It's a huge chunk of potential audience just gone.
So what's the solution here?
Right.
Sounds profitable, argues that podcasters need to get better at actually selling the medium itself.
Interesting.
Especially the big names with the resources to do it.
Yeah, imagine like a world where you hear ads not just for other podcasts,
Right.
but ones that remind you why this whole audio experience is so great in the first place.
You know, the learn while you walk, tailor-made entertainment
Totally.
aspect of it all.
Yeah.
It's a break from the screens.
It is a break from the screens.
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
Right.
But while we're pondering the future of persuasion, let's talk about the business side of things.
Okay.
Podtrack's monthly report dropped, and they've got their finger on the pulse
Always.
of the podcasting industry.
And the pulse is
What is it?
a little uneven this month.
Uneven? How so?
Well, while some big players like iHeartMedia are still going strong, a lot of publishers saw downloads dip in September.
Oh, interesting.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah, I guess summer's over.
Yeah.
Routines are back.
Yeah.
Maybe less time for those leisurely listens.
Exactly.
You're telling me my commute went from a podcast paradise back to, well,
The daily grind.
yeah, back to the daily grind.
Yeah.
A commute.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Podtrack highlights a case study by Magellan AI. This company that's all about helping advertisers track their podcast ads.
With laser focus.
With the laser focus.
I like it.
They talk about this company, Wild Grain.
Wild Grain.
A subscription bakery of all things.
Baking and podcasts.
I know.
What's not to love?
Right.
But tell me, how did they crush it exactly?
Their conversion rates went up.
All right.
Customer acquisition costs went down.
So they were making more money?
Essentially, Magellan AI
Yeah.
is like that friend who tells you exactly what to say and when to say it at a party, so you walk away having made a bunch of new connections.
I like that.
In this case, the connections are customers.
The connections are customers. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot more insightful than just tracking better results.
Right.
So even with listener fatigue, there's still huge potential for advertisers, but they've got to be strategic.
100%. And speaking of strategy, let's talk about Wondery.
Okay.
They're huge in the podcast world.
I've heard of them.
And they just announced this new show called The Best Idea Yet.
The best idea yet.
The hosts are Jack Kramer and Nick Martell, the duo behind that popular The Best One Yet podcast. You know that one.
Yeah, rings a bell.
Yeah.
What's this new show all about?
So this show, it's all about origin stories.
Okay.
But not just any origin stories.
Right.
They're diving into like the fascinating tales behind iconic products.
Oh,
Think Happy Meals,
okay.
Birkenstocks,
Interesting.
even the jacuzzi.
Okay, that's clever.
Right.
It's like history business and a little bit of nostalgia all rolled into one.
Totally.
I can see why they're excited about it.
Yeah, and it plays right into their strategy, too.
Okay.
Wondery's been really smart about this whole, like, doubling down on their existing talent
Makes sense.
to develop new shows.
Yeah, why fix what isn't broken?
Exactly.
Speaking of smart moves, how about those student podcasters out there?
Yes.
Mark your calendars because Student Podcast Day is coming up on October 24th
Oh, fun.
at the ICA.
Now this is exciting.
Yeah, it's a golden opportunity for students to, like, connect with industry pros.
Totally.
Maybe even land an internship.
Yeah.
Or get some invaluable feedback on their portfolios.
So important.
What an awesome way to get your foot in the door.
Right.
And speaking of opportunities
Yes.
and amplifying voices that need to be heard, we've got to talk about Broad Radio.
Oh, I love them.
They're doing incredible work,
They are.
especially when it comes to creating a dedicated space for women in media.
So needed.
Tell me more about what they're up to.
Well, they partnered with Mecca Empower
Okay.
to launch a special podcast series called Girl Spirit in honor of International Day of the Girl on October 11th.
Love that. What's the focus?
The series features interviews with teenage girls,
Okay.
expert guests, and Broad Radio co-founder Jo Stanley herself.
Cool.
They're tackling crucial topics like the challenges girls face, how we can better support them, and celebrating the power of their voices.
This sounds like essential listening, especially for parents and educators.
100%.
Are there any themes they're exploring in particular?
The first episode features Chelsea Gooden, author of Underestimated: The Power and Wisdom of Teenage Girls.
Oh, wow.
They'll also be hearing from a diverse group of Australian teens, offering insights into the minds of young women today.
It's so important to create these spaces for open dialogue. What about the second episode?
The second episode dives into the importance of mental health and emotional intelligence for girls, featuring Fiona Stanford,
Okay.
CEO of The Flourish Journey.
Got it.
Plus, they'll be sharing the stories of two inspiring young people, Az and Tessa, who participated in the Flourish Journeys program.
I love that they're highlighting real stories and real people.
You too.
It makes these issues so much more relatable and impactful.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's shift gears back to the business of podcasting for a moment. We've got news from Triton Digital.
Ooh, Triton.
They're making waves in the digital audio world.
Big waves.
Tell me more.
Triton just announced this major partnership with New Zealand Media and Entertainment, or NZME, a powerhouse down under.
I like it.
They're New Zealand's largest multimedia company.
Wow.
With a huge reach.
This sounds like a big deal. What's the partnership all about?
NZME is essentially handing over the reins of
yeah.
their streaming podcasting and monetization to Triton.
Wow.
They'll be using Triton's entire suite of tools,
Okay.
including their ad platform audio marketplace. And this is the interesting part. Their recently acquired Sounder platform.
Sounder, that name rings a bell.
It should.
Refresh my memory.
Sounder specializes in what's called contextual targeting.
Ooh, contextual targeting.
Imagine this. Advertisers can target their messages with very specific audiences based on what those people are actually listening to.
Okay, that's next level targeting.
Right.
So instead of just knowing someone's demographics, they know what they're interested in right now.
Yes.
Powerful stuff.
Exactly. And for NZME, this means access to a goldmine of audio data.
Oh, wow.
They can use this data to refine their podcasting strategy and, of course, boost that advertising revenue.
Talk about a smart move.
Right.
It seems like Triton is on a roll, especially in the Asia-Pacific region.
Absolutely. They're expanding rapidly.
Yeah.
Last year, they launched Podcast Metrics Demos Plus in Australia,
Okay.
which gives even more detailed information about podcast audiences to publishers and advertisers.
That is king.
It is.
The more you know about your audience, who they are, what they listen to,
That's right.
the better you can tailor content and advertising to their interests.
Couldn't agree more. And you know what else is all about? Reaching the right audience?
What's that?
Elections.
Oh, here we go.
Now, we're not here to get political,
Of course not.
but Edison Research released some fascinating data
Okay.
about how the candidates in the upcoming U.S. presidential election are using podcasts to sway voters,
Interesting.
especially young voters.
Okay. This I've got to hear. I wouldn't have thought of podcasts as like a major campaign tool.
Think again.
Okay.
Edison Research found that podcasts reach a staggering 48% of Americans aged 18 to 34 every week.
Wow, that's a lot.
Right? That's a demographic both campaigns are desperate to win over.
Makes sense. Young people are the future.
Exactly.
But how are they actually using podcasts to do this?
Both Vice President Harris and former President Trump have been making strategic appearances on popular podcasts.
Okay.
But they're choosing their platforms carefully.
So it's not just about getting on any podcast. It's about finding the right podcasts that align with their target demographic.
Exactly. Vice President Harris recently appeared on Call Her Daddy.
Oh, wow.
A wildly popular podcast with young female listeners.
That's a smart move.
Right.
Tap into that demographic directly where they're already listening. What about former President Trump? What's his podcast strategy?
So he's been more focused on podcasts that resonate with like younger white male audiences.
Okay, I see.
I think shows like This Past Weekend, Who's Theo Vaughn, and the Lex Fridman podcast.
Fascinating. So it's not just about having a message. It's about getting that message in front of the right ears.
100%.
Who knew podcasts were such a targeted battleground?
Right. It just goes to show you the power of this medium to reach specific groups of people.
Totally.
And how campaigns are getting increasingly savvy about using it.
It's like a whole new level of campaign strategy we're witnessing.
Totally.
Okay, so we've covered listener fatigue, the business of podcasting, and even a dash of election intrigue.
It's a lot.
But what about the art of podcasting itself?
Right.
Any noteworthy narratives or creators grabbing your attention these days?
Well, there's this captivating new podcast you might want to check out.
Okay.
It delves into the life and legacy of Norval Morrisseau,
Norval Morrisseau.
known as the Picasso of the North.
Oh, yeah. I read something about this.
Yeah.
He was an incredibly talented Indigenous artist from Canada, right?
Absolutely. This podcast, a collaboration between ABC and CBC Radio Canada,
Okay.
explores his rise to fame and a shocking art forgery scheme that threatened to overshadow his entire career.
Now that's a story what makes it so captivating.
It's a wild ride. Thousands of fake Morrisseau paintings flooded the art market,
Wow.
sparking one of Canada's largest art crime investigations ever.
Wow, it sounds almost too crazy to be true. Who's the host and what kind of perspective do they bring to this story?
The host is Adrian Stimson, a multidisciplinary artist and a member of the Siksika First Nation.
Okay.
His background brings a really unique layer to the podcast, raising important questions about cultural appropriation, authenticity, and how Indigenous art is valued in the Western art world.
It sounds like a must listen, for sure. Switching gears a bit, we've got some exciting news for all the podcast creators out there who are looking to expand their reach through video.
Big time.
Hit me with it.
Headliner, a popular platform for podcast marketing, just rolled out a game changer, free enhanced video support.
Okay, break it down for me. What does that mean for podcasters?
It means they can easily create engaging video content from their audio.
Explain.
So imagine this. You can clip the best parts of your podcast,
Right.
add captions, and boom. You've got content ready to share on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, you name it.
So smart. Everyone's consuming video these days.
Exactly.
It's all about meeting your audience where they are.
Right. And Headliner's making it even easier.
How so?
They've got AI that automatically selects the most compelling moments from your podcast
Oh, wow.
and optimizes those clips for different platforms. Plus, they'll even automatically add captions, which is huge for accessibility.
This is fantastic. It's like they've removed all the barriers for podcasters to go visual, talk about a game changer.
Totally agree. And it just goes to show how the podcasting world is always innovating, constantly evolving to keep pace with technology and how people are consuming content.
Which brings us back to that key takeaway you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
The podcasting world is a constantly shifting landscape.
It is.
And that's what makes it so exciting, right?
Absolutely.
It's dynamic, full of potential, and always keeping us on our toes.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just starting to explore the world of audio, remember to stay curious, keep experimenting, and never underestimate the power of a great story.
Truth. And who knows, maybe we'll be featuring your podcast on a future Deep Dive. Until next time, happy listening, Deep Divers.
This episode is brought to you by Podwire's Marketplace, the best platform for finding top podcast service providers and podcast producers. We've selected the best, and we're ready to make your project ideas a reality, no matter the size. We will achieve your business goals together. Find podcast experts who understand your market and will help you grow your business. Learn more right now on the homepage, https://marketplace.podwires.com.